Welcome to episode 13 of Breaking Building Belonging, a memoir-driven leadership podcast. In the last episode, episode 12, we met my Gram. That is my grandmother, and we called that chapter or that episode Panics, Pariahs, and Professors. So in that character portrait, we met Gram. I hope you can go back and listen to it if you haven't yet, and you'll find that she had a lot of dichotomies to her, and through it all, one of the biggest attributes that she had and that she passed on was her grit. And so Angela Duckworth talks about grit as working on something you care about so much you're willing to stay loyal to it. And I would kind of correct that with, when it comes to Gram, as working with someone's you care about so much you're willing to stay loyal to it. And then another quote I have opening the chapter from Josephine DeMonico, aka my Gram, is "Don't be a stunad, get back to work." So we shared a little story where she sent me back to work one time when I quit, or thought I quit, but she was not having any of it. So what did I learn from Gram? The leadership skill that emerges from her story is resilience, is that grit. She displayed remarkable resilience despite numerous challenges, setbacks, and even personal losses, from her early days working in sweatshops to the failed restaurant venture, financial struggles, and sacrificing her personal belongings for the well-being of us, her family. She consistently persevered through adversity. Her ability to bounce back, adapt, and keep moving forward is a powerful lesson in resilience and grit. She applied this to her own life and instilled that in her children and her grandchildren to the extent she could. Now, I mentioned Angela Duckworth. She's famous for her TED Talks on grit. She's a MacArthur Genius Award winner and a professor of psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. Her advice on grit is that we shouldn't consider it a trait like hair or eye color. Instead, we should think of it as something we can learn and a muscle we can grow. So what I suggest is lean into your reality and try this. Examine your life for these 4 signs Duckworth shares for discovering grit in your life. So what do you find enduringly fascinating? Some other leaders say, what breaks your heart? What do you feel called to fix or work on? Do you have this passionate, soul-stirring work of art you feel compelled to do? Name it. What do you find fascinating? That's the first one. Do you regularly view your frustrations and setbacks as part of the process and an opportunity to learn and grow, or do they throw you off track entirely? Do you try to find ways to make the work or art you currently engage in more meaningful? Do you look for small changes or wins to move toward meaning? Is your opinion of yourself and others that they are static and incapable of growth or change? Or do you have a view that each of us gets to grow and adapt throughout our lives? Those 4 things are, what do you find enduringly fascinating? Do you regularly view your frustration and setbacks as part of a process? Do you try to find ways to make your work or art more meaningful? And is your opinion of yourself or others that they are static or incapable of growth? Those are 4 of the signs that you look for when you're trying to discover grit in your life. So what could I have done differently with the Gram situation? We always like to look at this as we talk through an episode. And what could I have done differently as I grew up? I guess it took me a long time to realize what Gram was trying to teach me all those years. I was quite caught up, feeling like things would never change for our family, that we were destined to remain in poverty, and I was relying on Gram, Peepop, and we were all kind of relying on each other to scrape by. I was silently taught the joys of walking beside people as they grow and develop. I realized too late, though, that my Gram was a master of serving others and giving them what they needed to get to the next level. So in the moment, I could have shown my gratitude more clearly, for sure. Servant leaders look for ways to serve others and are careful not to take those they are closest to for granted, and I certainly did that with Graham. I also could have had a stronger growth mindset and explored the options of staying or returning to school sooner. Yet the lessons I learned living in that tiny apartment, working in a greasy restaurant, and serving others were invaluable for building my grit muscle. I also discovered how much I love coaching and mentoring others through my experiences. I discovered this is what is enduringly fascinating to me, walking alongside others and helping them get to that next level. And I think that some of that was something that Graham did well that rubbed off on me. So if I had a time machine, my mindset and attitude would likely change more than my circumstances. So how can you build on your reality? How can you unlock your kernel of truth? Your enduringly fascinating thing may not be walking alongside others. Something else entirely compels you, excites you, or breaks your heart so much that you want to work on it, improve it, or fix it. That's okay. So what is that? Write some ideas down today. Look at the last hurdle or challenge you recently faced or are facing now. Did you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? And what's one small thing you could start doing today that would help you reframe your circumstances and become more gritty like Graham? Well, that's the end of episode 13, and I will catch you next time when we go deeper. We're going to talk about finding our way on the hero's journey, and I look forward to that. In the meantime, I'll also add an info card in here to look at the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset, so that you can check that out in more depth if you want. Thanks. I want to see you soar. Until next time.